h2r is almost certainly the fastest motorcycles you can buy. It's not the fastest motorcycle because it's not sold for use on the road. Most places won't make it hard to change an h2r so that it could be driven on the road, since you could just use parts from the road version. Hello, welcome to our YouTube channel. In this video, we will talk about the speed of the Kawasaki h2r. Before we start, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell icon. Kawasaki also made a 200 horsepower version that could be driven on the road. They called it Kawasaki H2, with 230 horsepower at the crank. The latest version is even more powerful. If you want h2r power and madness on the road without breaking the law, it makes a lot more sense to buy a H2 and make it h2r power than to buy an h2r, which costs about twice as much as the H2 in most places. How fast is an h2r? Even though 310 and 326 with ram aromatic horsepower or more were claimed at the crank, a dynojet, a dynamometer, showed that the h2r made between 230 and 240 horsepower at the wheels. Even though the h2r would probably make more power once it was moving, maybe another 10 horsepower at the wheels, we can't get around the fact that it makes a lot less power than what the Kawasaki says it does and what we would normally expect at the rear wheel based on what they say. Usually we lost about 10% in transmission losses from the crank to the rear wheels. This means that if the h2r had 310 to 326 horsepower at the crank, it should have about 280 to 290 horsepower at the rear wheels, but this is not what we see. There are different ideas and pieces of information on the internet about how fast a stock h2r is. If you like h2r, you probably know about Sufoglu's record of 400 kilometers per hour on the Osman Gazi Bridge in his home country of Turkey. That was just PR stunt, and the only thing used was h2r speedometer. No GPS or timing equipment was used. The speedometers on motorcycles are terrible and can be off by as much as 12%. Even though it was PR stunt and we don't know for sure, it wouldn't be crazy to think that h2r was probably turned up and had more power than the stock bike. Stock Kawasaki h2r can't even go 400 kilometers per hour. The h2r usually reaches its peak power 240 HP at 12,500 RPM, which is 327 km per hour or just over 200 miles per hour in 6th gear. On a static dyno, the h2r keeps its power up to about 13,000 RPM before it starts to lose it. Due to the ram air effect, it keeps its power up until the rev limiter. To reach the magic 400 km per hour, a stock h2r would have to rev and pull to 15,250 RPM, but it doesn't rev that high. Even though the tachometer shows higher numbers, an h2r can't rev much higher than 14,000 RPM in the 6th gear. 14,000 RPM in top on stock gearing is 367 km per hour and 228 miles per hour, but the stock h2r just doesn't have that power or aerodynamics to pull to 14,000 RPM in top. Kevin Cameron of the magazine Cycle World once said that the h2r could theoretically go faster than 400 km per hour with the right gearing. With all due respect to him, he was wrong. Though it's likely that he got the idea from the Kawasaki's claim that a car with ram air can make 326 horsepower at the crank, which, if true, would mean 290 HP at the wheels, taking into account the normal 10% loss of power in the transmission. A 290 HP bike, even one with the aerodynamics of an elephant like an h2r, could probably get up to 400 km per hour. But an h2r with only 230 to 240 HP at the wheels couldn't. So he was right when he said that it was theoretically possible, but the h2r didn't have that power that he used to form his opinion. The fastest a stock h2r can go is 350 km per hour, but most of the time it would go between 330 and 350 km per hour, depending on the bike, the rider, and the conditions. Kawasaki h2r design. A pair of intake scoops takes up most of the space on the generally looking front fairing. The scoops send pressurized air from the intake back to the supercharger into along with the left side of the bike through a carbon fiber duct. The front fairing and the 4 spoilers are made of carbon fiber. When the bike is moving fast, the spoilers provide enough downforce to keep the front wheel planted and its contact patch well pressed against the road. The top of the fairing is finished with a bubble screen that looks like the canopy of a fighter jet. The only decoration on the h2r's face is Kawi River Mark logo. A pair of cheek fairing that go down the cover, the radiator, and finish off the look of having everything up front. As for the instruments, a round analog gauge shows the reefs, and a color LCD screen and a ring of LED indicator lights show the other important items. The background of the tech is black, the orange numbers light up as the needle moves up the range. This is a cool effect to see. Along with the usual measurements, the display has a lean angle indicator and a boost gauge that racers may find useful in the long run. A pair of very short handlebars are attached directly to the upper triple clamp. These bars pull you forward over the 4.5-gallon fuel tank into a very aggressive riding position that you can't get out by pushing off the ground. Shoulders at the top of the tank meet the narrow waist at the point where the tank meets the seat and frame. This makes knee pockets on both sides. The fuel tank hump and unswept tail, which is topped by a fairing with no P-pad, create deep swell where the saddle sits. Nope, this bike isn't made for two people to ride together and have fun. Kawasaki h2r acceleration review. Even if the h2r has less peak power than advertised, it is still a very fast motorcycle. However, with 230 and 240 HP at the wheels and short wheelbase, you can't really put all of the power down until at least 160 km/h, but for the h2r you really need to be about 125 mph or 200 km/h and in third or fourth. But even then, the front still wants to come up or the back wants to light up. The h2r isn't that much faster off the line than the average liter bike. 60 mph in 2.93 seconds and 100 mph in 5.12 seconds. All of these numbers are about the same as those of the most liter and liter plus superbikes on the market today. The h2r speed is best when the wheelie and traction control are turned off and the rider is skilled. However, don't think you will always win the traffic light GP on this bike because it's hard to get the most out of it from a dig. For the h2r to show that it's better than the other motorcycles, you need a high wear or a long runway. Even though it's hard and tricky to get it going, it can still do a quarter mile in 9.64 seconds at 164 mph, which is a very impressive time. After that, the h2r can go from 0 to 180 mph in 11.77 seconds and from 0 to 200 mph in 16.83 seconds. The drag is standard benchmark of going from 60 to 130 mph in 4 seconds is a great time by any measure. But it would be much faster if the driver didn't have the control for wheelies and wheel spin. With a longer, lower, and strapped swing arm, it would probably go from 60 to 130 mph in little less than 3 seconds and finish a quarter mile at 170 mph or more in the flat 8 seconds. In 12.50 seconds, the Kawasaki h2r can go from 0 to 300 km/h. For comparison, your fastest liter bikes like the Yamaha R1 can go from 0 to 180 mph in about 15 to 22 seconds depending on the bike and can go just under 10 seconds for the quarter mile even though their top speed is 15 to 20 mph lower. As a point of reference, here is S1000RR. Most lit bikes can't go any faster than about 180 mph, but the h2r can go as fast as 212 mph, like 342 km/h. That's a long way from 400 km/h, which was never a real speed to begin with. The h2r will be remembered as one of the craziest bikes ever sold to the general public. There is nothing with the 2 wheels and almost nothing with the 4 wheels that can go faster than an h2r. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, drop a comment below. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon for all the latest updates.